big toe extension, PAILs and RAILs. For this exercise, you will need something in order to get your toe into extension. The door frame will work. Once you see the exercise, you'll realize. I'm going to use a yoga block. Now, what we're going to start by doing is getting the big toe in front of what you're going to stretch on. We're going to lift the big toe onto whatever that is, the door frame, or in this case a yoga block, and I'm going to find my passive range. Now, passive range for big toe extension means that the ball of the foot and the ball underneath the little toe remain on the floor as well as the heel. Okay, we don't want any rolling of the foot, either left or right. And where we want to try and feel the stretch is underneath the big toe. I'll show you from this side, as we slide in, the stretch should be coming from underneath. Okay? This would be the closing angle, and we want to avoid any pain in here. If we can, keep the big toe straight in this position, rather than letting it come across, that would also be preferable. When we do PAILs and RAILs, the first element of that is always the passive stretch. So we would hold this stretch now passively, no tension, for 2 minutes. After that 2 minutes, depending on your program, you'll be asked to create some directional efforts, starting with a PAILs contraction. PAILs contraction in this instance is to keep the tripod down on the floor and to now start to actively push the toe into the object on which you are stretching. You ramp up that intensity through your percentages, depending on your program, for the amount of time that's also on your program. When you're pushing down, we don't want to see any movement or rotation from the midfoot. It's just the toe, and that will increase now the load in the stretch tissue underneath. After you've finished your PAILs contraction, you will then do a RAILs contraction, which means you will train the other side of the joint. Essentially, you're trying to lift the toe off the object from which you are stretching. However, because you are now at your end range, you will not lift. The temptation to roll the foot will be strong, or even to pull back. We need to try to avoid that and connect with all the tissues, the top of the foot, that would help you lift that toe towards your shin. You can see, if you get connection with the tissue, the big tendon that runs across here, and it was also helpful if you think about driving your big toe into the floor. You would then try to wrap that up, hold it for the allotted time, then dial down, go back to passive. If you feel like you have some more room, you can then re-establish your new position, but the checks must be the same. 1, 2, 3, no rotation of the foot. You would then wait here for up to 2 minutes, and then start your next PAILs and RAILs, driving down, stretching that tissue, actively loading it as well, and then trying to lift off wherever you're stretching.